everybody, I'm Quinn.
And I'm Scott, and it's time for the Almost Friday show for June 14th, 2012.
And off the press this week, we're doing a group review of Prometheus. Some of us liked it, some of us didn't like it.
Some of us passionately didn't like it.
It's true.
So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of back and forth. Then we're going to Tech Insight, and it was WWDC this week.
New Apple products?
Yes, well, kind of.
Kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our mixed
One
reviews
new
on-
Apple product?
Yeah,
Really?
an Apple product.
An Apple product.
Yes, and some news on new iOS and new Lion.
Mountain lion.
Lion Plus.
Lions in mountains.
Yeah, and the mountain part is just like a bunch of applications.
Yeah,
Really.
it's true.
Yes, but we'll list those for you later, along with the most exciting news of the week, I think, is Vizio's releasing their desktops, and they're not expensive.
In science this week, we're taking a look at a man climbing a wall with vacuums. That's really what's happening.
Yeah, that's not much more to be said there.
Just much better just seen.
See it, yeah.
Yeah.
Then we're going behind the lens, and we're talking about Canon has some new camera and some new glass for us. Nikon, some new glass.
Yeah.
And some new fancy German glass,
It's true. Schneider Kreuznach.
which I couldn't remember.
Yeah,
So
I think
fancy
it's
German
pronounced like
glass.
that. If not, I don't really care.
Schnitzel glass.
Schnitzel glass. And with that, it's time for Off the Press.
Hey guys, and welcome to Off the Press this week. As you can see, it's a little crowded around here because Prometheus happened, and we all have opinions on it.
Yay! Some more than others.
Yep.
So we're just gonna start with the basic yay or nay. Starting over on that side. Liked it? Don't like it?
Well, are you asking me if I'm recommending it to other
Overall, yay or nay,
Overall, did you
regardless
like
of your
it?
opinions.
people? Well, then nay.
Nay?
Cool.
I'm a yay.
I'm also a yay.
I hated it.
But he's like a minus 20. Alright.
Nah, we're not even getting. We need to go more into quadruple digits here. We're not sticking to doubles.
But
here.
overall,
see.
we're all coming from completely different places in the
Yep.
fact that we like or dislike this film. So, we'll start, over here. How
All
do you
right.
feel about it?
Okay, so I'm reviewing this from I've seen Alien, but I'm reviewing this as a standalone film. Because Sean is going to review this as a prequel to Alien, because he's a little bit better versed in the Alien universe than I am and can make a better judgment in that regard. So as a standalone film, I thought that cinematically it was a very pretty film. It looked really nice. I found that the CG was pretty cool. The performances delivered by Michael Fassbender and specifically Noomi Rapace, in certain scenes anyways, were quite good. However, the story is retarded. It has a whole bunch of things that don't make any sense progressively, and they just kind of keep getting worse, and then at some point decide that it doesn't matter and we'll just keep trucking on forward.
The questions just keep piling up.
Over
and the
and
answer
over
and there's no
again.
answers taking them away.
It's like
Sure.
at some point in time someone says, let's back up a truck full of questions, just dump it all on this lawn. And then you can sort through the ones that you care about most and try and figure it out, because we sure don't want to tell you. So, I mean, there was just a lot of problems, like, why is the geologist unable to navigate caves that he's mapped? And why is the biologist terrified of dead things but really, really excited about live things that could probably kill him? And just because the air has oxygen in it doesn't mean that there isn't, stuff that will kill you anyways, so probably shouldn't take off your helmet. See, I have to kind of update my yay or nay. I think it's worth seeing in the theaters because it's a pretty movie, and if you don't care about plot holes, it's a decent action flick that benefits from a big screen experience. But if you actually want to gain anything out of watching a movie,
So see it on
maybe
a
not so much.
Tuesday.
Cheap
Yes.
night.
Take
It's
it
a
in on
cheap
a
Tuesday
night?
film
All right.
because it's visually very pretty, but the storyline's kind of like Swiss cheese.
All right.
Oh my.
So I'm going to review it from the point of view of somebody who has zero experience with the Alien films and am also really good at suspending my disbelief. I'm super good at that. It's a skill I've worked on by watching a lot of children's movies. Overall, I really liked it. I liked it for the same reasons Quinn liked it. The actors were amazing, and aesthetically it was really good. Like, Geiger has a very specific aesthetic, and Ridley really brought that to the film. I guess I also agree with him for the most part. Like, there's a lot of plot problems with it, but I kind of liked a lot of the open-ended questions. They could have cut out a lot of the subplots, but I enjoyed a lot of how things were left-handing. Michael Fassbender as David was a confusing character for a lot of people because he was an android, but he seemed kind of malicious and a little bit douchey underneath it all, which is like not a thing an android should be able to do. But I liked all the underlying little philosophical questions you could ask yourself based on why he chose to poison, scientist boyfriend and why he seemed to really enjoy the fact that Dr. Shaw was 3 months pregnant and, wasn't that funny? And, I'm just going to make slightly distasteful jokes, but apologize, but I don't mean it. And stuff like that. So I guess I got a lot more joy out of the things that were good from the film to the point where, because it was so pretty and because Noomi Rapace was such a badass the whole time, even if she had to stop every 5 minutes to clutch at her uterus.
They're just reminding you, oh, by the way, this happened.
By the way, she stapled herself shut and then ran.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Because you can totally do that.
But the parts that were really good and the mood that was really good really shone out for me. So I really liked it, and I'm probably going to buy it because I want to keep reading it. I enjoy filling in the plot holes myself, and so the more I watch the movie, the more coherently I can do it. So I'm definitely going to buy it.
My review is going to be really short. It's basically what he said, most of what she said, and I don't really mind that there's plot holes you can drive a truck through, because
it's kind of like not sci-fi if there's not at least one.
Exactly. Yeah. I enjoyed it as a standalone sci-fi thriller. The trailers made it look more scary than it actually was, but the parts that were supposed to be creepy or scary or whatever, they really did a good job of establishing the mood. There were a couple of parts that turn around the corner and say boo, but not as much as the original Alien movie, which were like horror first, sci-fi second.
Yeah, I really felt that there were a couple of sort of fight scenes, but they were kind of few and far between.
Yeah.
So it was like...
Yeah, it's not really an action movie, more of a sci-fi thriller.
Yeah, it really doesn't sit on that horror line that the original Aliens was very good at being on.
Yeah.
And I was expecting it to be more scary than it was, and kind of came out going, that really wasn't shocking at all.
Yeah, it's like, I was expecting to be way more scared, but I'm really not, so...
It, wanted to be a sci-fi movie and was a sci-fi movie, but then it was like, but Alien happened, so I guess we should try and make it horror a little
the last
bit.
10 minutes was totally all action all the time,
Yeah.
and then,
all the running in the wrong direction.
You're running away from a donut. Go this way, not that way.
Forgive anybody for that.
on.
That's just dumb.
Come on now.
You get crushed under that, you deserve to die.
It's
That's
true.
just nature.
But you know what? I would totally watch the adventures of Elizabeth Shaw and Head of...
and Michael Fassbender's head.
Yeah, just, carry him in a bag occasionally.
I think it would be adorable. He could make fantastic British quips, and she'd be like, oh, David.
Oh, God.
Oh, you. Carry him in a bag, the little designer dog. Awesome.
Fantastic. Think about the little hats.
Oh, God.
Well, it'd be normal-sized hats, because it's a normal-sized head.
Yeah, I guess. That wouldn't be as cute, though.
No.
So...
It's horrifying.
And so all your hate.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to review this, like they said, as a fan of the originals
It's a
and
hate
going
sandwich.
in as, looking at it as an open mind and hopefully going in not seeing a prequel. Turned out to be a prequel. So, I'm really not happy with the movie. I liked some of the characters, like everyone else. I love, Noomi Rapace's character and Michael Fassbender's character. Yeah. Because, she took that like a chief. I'm just going to staple myself shut, run around, get hit in the gut, and keep going. And just keep going. Like, an Energizer Bunny stops eventually. That kept going.
That's true. She left the planet. She's like, no, we're good. Let's go.
Like, you're kind of bleeding. No, okay, yeah, we're good. Michael Fassbender, though, just on your point of how the androids act, that is one of the things I loved.
Okay.
Because pretty much all of the androids throughout the Alien series, and when I say that, I'm basically referring to the Alien and Aliens. Third one, but mostly the first two. So Ian Holm played as Ash on the first one. He was the science officer on the Nostromo, who was incidentally an android. If you haven't seen the movies, I just spoiled that for you. Good job. But you should
Also, like a 20-year-old movie, so...
Yeah.
You had your time.
You should have figured it out by now.
But anyway, the whole thing is, though, he had that same sort of thing. You had no idea what his agenda was. He joined he joined the crew right early on. Like, there's no idea why this guy was there. But he had that same somewhat aloof yet malicious sort of air about him. So you had no idea what his agenda was, but you knew there was an agenda. Turns out, of course, he's working with the company trying to figure out what the creature is and, steal it. So the way they actually continued on with Fassbender playing as those androids was perfect, in my opinion. To like even canon, it was just perfect. Also, they kept the effect of the milk for blood and all of that, whatever they used for it. I thought it was great. But this is where it kind of falls apart to me. The whole thing with Alien was the fact that it was a horror movie. The reason why it was a horror movie is because it was a creature that was, and I'm sure anyone who knows Geiger's work would not disagree with me, it was extremely overly sexual creature. Like, it is nothing more than a walking phallic symbol. And, well, actually, even vaginal symbol. It's a mixture of everything. That's why it's horrific. But you never saw a lot of it. You saw some of it, but not enough. And it was able to prey on you. I love the movies where less is more. They show you less of the creature, so you start freaking out because you don't know what the rest of it's going to
They
look like.
save the reveal to the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or don't even
if at
do
all.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or exactly. Or they don't even reveal it. So you really get kind of creeped out by it. This movie had none of that. The space jockey or the pilot that happened in the first movie, that was great. I loved how they tried to come up with an idea of how to explain those guys. And I actually am kind of happy with how the engineers were done. Like, that was a spacesuit rather than an actual creature. I like that. That worked for me. But, what really spoiled it was, one, the geologist and biologist who honestly had no business being there and really sucked at their jobs.
Didn't they know what they were
Getting into?
Yeah, like, okay.
Apparently not,
Well,
because
apparently the whole crew
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
learned a stasis
Wait,
for 2 years and showed up on a planet.
This reminded me of, why are they reintroducing each other? You would think that before they got frozen, there was like an orientation session or something saying
Yep.
this is what we're doing, basically, sort of, kind of. These are all the people. Say hi, my name
My
is Elizabeth
thinking on
Shaw.
that, though, is
Like-
because they wanted to keep the same air of mystery that happened in Alien.
like,
Because
they
they
could've-
they woke up because of an SOS or something
Yeah.
similar, and they were pulled toward that planet. So you have no idea what the hell they're doing there. Nobody did. But beyond those guys...
I understand secret mission, but why wouldn't the crew know each other? Like, even as a basic, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm a biologist, or hi, I'm so-and-so, I really love rocks.
Well, beyond those guys, though, there was too many little characters that really had no point to
Like
it.
the Asian guy and the guy with the bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, that was kind of somewhat funny.
Yeah,
But for
they're-
the most part, they were there for 4 scenes.
They were really willing to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit too willing.
Yeah,
It's,
and the fight scene that I remember was with the geologist dude after he turned somehow because the black goo.
Oh yeah, when
That
he
was
came back to life, Captain
Kind of
Zombie.
lame,
It
to my
was.
opinion. It was just okay, great. He's alive. You guys are the worst shot in all the galaxy. What are you, friggin' stormtrooper? Take this dude down. One in the head, double tap. It was. It took so much to take the guy down. Okay, I get it. He's supposed to have been gone crazy, turned into the weapon. Which brings me over to Noomi Rapaz's child. We'll call it
Yeah.
the birthing unit.
Parasite.
Yeah, the parasite. So it's not supposed to be a facehugger because it's too big. Except that's exactly what it did. It jabbed an ovipositor down someone's throat, and it came out of their chest and turned into something kind of like a xenomorph. But I'm going to call it a xenomorph because that's what it was.
A latex enthusiast with a dolphin for a head.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to call it the blue version of the xenomorph. Because that's
Xenomorph
exactly
blue.
what it was.
Tastes like soap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tastes like Windex. And that's part of the reason why I hated it. If they left
Full
out
reveal.
that... Yeah.
Yeah.
If they left that part out completely,
Yeah,
That would've been great.
My biggest problem with that movie was that last minute and a half where they showed the.
yeah. But you know what, though? The other thing that a lot of other reviewers out there have said, and I agree wholeheartedly, we waited till the end of the movie for the adventures of... what was the character's name?
Elizabeth Shaw
And David.
And David's head.
head of David.
We waited till the end of the movie to get to the point that the movie was trying to make,
Yeah.
which was we're going to find the planet and get our questions asked.
So sort of
I
really
watched an
long
entire
prologue.
movie. Yeah, I watched
Yeah.
an entire movie that is nothing but prologue for nothing.
Hey, it's like Pirates of the Caribbean 2.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
It's just why? Give me the damn answers now. Like, I'm watching this as a person who wants to know these questions from Alien. We've been waiting for these answers for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Let's get them. Let's not screw around here. I know there's a lot of rewrites, and I know they said we don't want it to be a prequel. End up being a prequel. So basically, the reason why I hate it, they lied to me, and they've ruined pieces of my childhood now. Ish. And also, when you're running from a donut,
Yeah.
come on.
Split this way.
even go the same way. Just get out of its path.
Go that way. If you really have to run into the middle, it's not the smartest thing to do, but
It's smarter than
running straight towards. Come
Yeah.
on. Or straight away from it.
And the other thing too is, I will also agree with you though.
Mm-hmm.
I love how they kept the ship in Geiger's design. Every piece of it
Yeah.
was basically Geiger, and I love how they kept him for that.
Yeah, there's the part where the
But-
engineer guy went on the big.
Yeah,
Either,
basically went into the cockpit.
Yeah, went in the
Yeah.
cockpit, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was perfect. I love that because it was essentially the exact
Yeah.
same set.
it's very
Yep.
biolumy. Everything is squishy and
Yeah.
organic and
Very
it's
visually
very,
interesting movie.
yeah. And
Very visceral. So it's the best part of it.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of our Prometheus review. Sean and I are going to leave now, and the girls will continue telling you about other things happening in entertainment this week.
All right, now there's finally some room to move. So Becky this week picked up Batwoman #1. It's part of the new DC 52, the original new 52, not the new 52 or the new 52.
yeah, whichever one. I don't know. It's new with an exclamation mark at the very least. No, right on the
New.
cover. It's like the new 52.
Exciting
Because we know you're not enthusiastic about it, so we're going to pretend that you should be.
with one exclamation.
With one exclamation mark. So basically, I am not a DC reader.
Yeah.
I never have been. All of the things I have that are involved with DC are I love Batman the Animated Series. I like Harley Quinn. I like Christopher Nolan's movies. I enjoy Batman and Robin. Please don't hold that against me.
The original?
Yeah.
I love it.
but Batwoman as a reboot, everybody been saying really good things about it, so I figured it was worth it to pick up a trade. From the start, it's absolutely gorgeous,
Oh my
and I
God,
think it
yes.
is worth the money from that alone. And there's 3 different styles, which is a really interesting thing for them to have done. They have when Batwoman is Batwoman, and then when Kane is hanging out being her, and then they have this soft
Sexy time.
sort of the sex art style, as we will talk about it, because it's the only time they use it is
Yay.
when that sort of thing goes down. But
But the 3 styles work together really well.
Yeah.
It's not jarring at all.
no, it's just
sometimes
this
there's no-
fantastic sort of blending.
Exactly.
And I'm going to show you my favorite part. One of the favorite best things that I have about this one is that in some of the fight scenes, there's just really interesting things that they've chosen to do with this. Is during the fights, wherever there's a connect here, they show the breakage, which is just an interesting thing for them
Yeah.
to have done artistically.
It's really cool.
So, it is. I'm kind of happy that it's a reboot because it means that I can pick it up from the beginning and I can know everything.
But that was DC's intention.
and that
with
was the
52.
point, right? And
Yeah.
so I guess this is the one thing that I'm going to say that they haven't ruined because I really enjoyed it. And so it's a good mix of multiple types of art. The plot is really interesting and well written. I want to know what happens. There's relationship stuff, fight stuff, Batman stuff, because he's in there as well. And so that's really interesting to me. And you do have to read the art as well as the dialogue, which is a thing that doesn't happen enough in superhero comics
It's
very
true.
specifically. It's like Batwoman and The Flash, and that's all we have right now.
Yep.
But cling to it because it's absolutely beautiful. So I'm definitely going to start picking this up in single issue because I don't want to wait for the next trade to come out.
Yeah, they're taking forever with the trades for these. Like,
Absolutely.
What's going on, DC?
I started
Come on
releasing
now.
this last year, and it's
Like
forever.
last
Ugh.
September or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was around
Yeah,
September.
pretty much with the reboot. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's absolutely fantastic, and I really enjoy it. And I especially recommend it to people who haven't done DC in any manner, because you can just walk in and it gives you all the backstory you need.
So it's kind of slow week this week following E3, so we're just gonna move right along to the new releases. This week we have Rock of Ages coming to theaters.
Which is Tom Cruise being allowed to be Tom Cruise crazy, because
Woo.
actor, rock star, put them together.
You get Tom Cruise crazy.
Yeah, and they actually managed to make him look not really short, if the trailer is to be believed in any way.
It's true. But other than that, nothing huge coming out this week.
It's true. You can pick up Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows if that is a thing that was of interest to you. It came
Yep.
out on Blu-ray and DVD, so that's pretty cool.
Sean's pretty excited for
Sean's
that.
pretty excited, and there's nothing really too exciting other than Lollipop Chainsaw coming out that came out this week
Lame.
on games. We're excited because Pokemon Conquest is out next week, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna buy that and I'm gonna play it, and we'll talk about that on the show next week.
Sweet.
See ya.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tech Insight. We're talking about WWDC because Apple announced stuff. That's usually what happens around this time of year.
Yeah, so they've turned their development conference lately into this giant foray of announcing new things.
Yeah, because
which-
we were all like, we're not going to do your conferences. We're just going to do our
Yes,
conferences.
so they have to fill the spot somewhere. It was a 2-hour keynote,
Yes.
and it was jam packed full of things.
The keynote was longer than the amount of time it took for the tickets to sell out.
Yes, yeah.
Hour and 43 minutes, the WWDC. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's better than some rock concerts.
Although what they didn't tell you was Google I/O sold out in a matter of seconds.
That's because Google just balled them themselves and mailed them.
Oh, we sold out faster. So we're going to start with what they started with. So they upgraded some hardware. Now, we're of mixed opinions on this. So we'll go through the specs and kind of tell you what we're thinking. So they updated the MacBook Air. The 11-inch gained... So they both gained Ivy Bridge processors. So that's the newest from Intel.
Yep.
So you're going to see a bit of a speed boost. They're touting speed boost now.
Yeah, because we had a conversation about this where I thought that it must have been something that although Sandy Bridge could support it, Apple probably restricted because Apple likes to jump on the things that are buzzwords.
Yes.
And Turbo Boost really is one of those. But it turns out that they really had Turbo Boost in Sandy Bridge, so this is something they've had for a while, and this is just the first time they decided to tell you about it.
Yeah, so the new Ivy Bridge chipsets, you get that Intel HD 4000 graphics, which is more than enough for everyday use, which is all you're going to be able to do on your Air, and some processor speed boosts, obviously. USB 3 finally, because it's baked in.
That's really the important one, is
Yeah.
that Apple is now supporting that format. Which is good because as much as Thunderbolt is a great format, there are considerably more things out there that are USB 3.0 right now, and it's not really going to go away.
And, Thunderbolt doesn't seem like the thing you're going to have, portable, like, thumbsticks and things for it. It just,
Yeah.
They're used for different things. They're different. Thunderbolt's more like a replacement for Express Card.
Now, I gotta ask you, in the presentation, they were talking about the fact that most laptop manufacturers, the USB 3 ports, are not also USB 2 ports.
Giant lie.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of weird, because I'm fairly
Yes.
certain they're backwards compatible.
Because they were touted, they never called them a USB 3 port. Apple refers to them as USB 3.0/2.0 ports.
Yes.
Which is ridiculous because USB 3.0, by definition, as set out in the spec, which is a standard, is backwards compatible. So you can shove any USB device into a USB 3 port and it will work.
So it's just Phil Schiller being Phil
Yes,
Schiller.
that is not true in any way. I don't know how they even say things like that. Like, Sean has a laptop with USB 3. I have a desktop with USB 3. Becky's got a desktop with USB 3. I have personally plugged in flash drives that are USB 2 into all of those ports. So, yeah, I don't know what he's talking about. The only big thing for the Air is the 13-inch got a resolution bump.
Yep.
So from 1280 by 800, which is terrible, although that's the same res on my MacBook Pro, to 1440 by 900, but the 11-inch is the same.
Yeah.
So that was the Air, and they went through these really quickly.
It took about 40 minutes, but they eventually got through what was 5 models by the time it was done, and
Yes.
half of it was a brand new model, which we'll get to in a moment. They also updated the MacBook Pro, very much the same stuff across the line.
Yeah.
Ivy Bridge, HD 4000, new GeForce graphics on the uprated 15-inch,
Yep.
As well as USB 3.0, and there's new MagSafe. There.
Yeah, so the new MagSafe, it's called MagSafe 2. Essentially, it's exactly the same, except not as tall.
Yeah.
Because they'll need it for this new product that we're going to talk about in a second. But the new MacBook Pros have the MagSafe 2, which I didn't know and is completely stupid. But I guess they only want to produce one kind of power adapter, so that kind of makes sense. So the new
Because they
Airs
can sell a
have that as
$10
well.
magnet adapter.
Yes, which will plug your old
Old into
adapter
new.
into a new one, but not vice versa.
Yes.
So if you have 2 MacBooks, you still need 2 separate adapters, unless you have a new one and don't worry about it.
But the new product they did announce this week was the MacBook Pro Retina.
Yes, or the next generation.
The
MacBook
next
Pro. I think
generation.
MacBook Pro Retina display is what they're calling it.
I believe
Yes.
so. So the big thing about this is it's a complete redesign. First off, they made it substantially thinner than the currently available MacBook Pro. It is
Yes.
also a 15-inch screen, so it's not a 17, even though that they're really aiming for the Pro demographic this time. But although it is a 15-inch screen, it is as thick as the MacBook Air is at its thickest point.
0.71 inches.
So they shaved a quarter of the size off of the traditional MacBooks going to this guy. But what's really impressive with this is the screen. So it is running 2880
by 1800.
by 1800,
which is exactly double the 15-inch on the lower scale, which is 1440 by 900.
which is the highest resolution ever produced on a laptop.
Yeah, and like we were discussing earlier, the highest resolution,
We think we found on pretty much anything that would be a single display.
maybe some 30-inch displays are running more.
Maybe.
But we know the 27-inch cinema display does not, and most 27 inches.
Yeah,
don't.
most 27 inch stop around 25, 60,
Yeah.
I think.
I think probably it's a little bigger on those big 30 inches, but you're talking a lot of dough for that.
Yeah.
So that's the big selling feature of this thing is it's super thin and it has that gorgeous display. Now it has the same kind of hardware specs as the other MacBook Pros. So you get the Ivy Bridge, the 4000 graphics with the GeForce 650M as the switchable, up to 16 gigs of RAM, up to a big solid state, 768.
768 gigabytes
Now,
solid
I mean,
state.
you'll pay for that.
It's true.
But it is an option.
Yeah.
Now the cool thing about this guy is it has 2 Thunderbolt ports, not just the one.
Yeah.
Which is I think the first laptop to have more than one Thunderbolt port.
Yeah, it also has an HDMI port, which is the first time we've seen an Apple product outside of the Mac Mini.
Yeah.
Basically, any portable product have an HDMI port.
Yeah, which is good. Other than that, USB 3. It's got
But two of them, which the other laptops don't have.
Yes, and it's got SD card, which is good, standard things. The only thing I don't like about what they've done is they dropped Ethernet.
Yes.
And the only reason I don't like that is because they're touting it as a pro product. And a lot of pros work off networks.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi's garbage if you're working off big files on a network. I'm sorry, it is.
Now, they did...
There is an adapter.
There is an adapter. They're making a Thunderbolt to FireWire 800 and a Thunderbolt to Ethernet adapter.
Because the FireWire is gone as well in this model.
Correct.
Which is not as big a loss with the Thunderbolt there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is that, like we talked about last week, there are great breakout boxes coming, and that will likely end up being a solution a lot of people go for because they'll just keep everything plugged in, drop their laptop down.
See, this looks perfect for a breakout box because you can plug that in, have your big external display as well as your gorgeous 15-inch. You can have your gigabit Ethernet built on there, and as well, all your drives and stuff already plugged in. So this is gonna be big for Thunderbolt, I think, and it's nice to have the 2 ports.
Yeah.
Now it's actually light, a little bit heavier than the Air, but not by much.
Uh,
Like half a pound heavier.
Something like that, but it is lighter than the other MacBook Pros.
Yes, by almost a pound.
Yes.
Not quite. Now, the big thing here, when they were announcing this, I was watching it live. What are they going to price it at? So the bare bones model of that high end, with the Retina, which gives you, I think it's a 2.3 gig i7,
Yes.
8 gigs of RAM, and a
256.
256 solid state.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for most people, that's fantastic. You don't need to upgrade that.
Absolutely.
Unless you want to go to 16 gigs, which is going to cost you. That's $22.29 in Canada.
Yeah.
$21.99 in the States. That is an amazing price point for that because if you compare it to, say, the 15-inch MacBook Pro without the Retina display and you spec it up similarly, it's actually more expensive to buy that MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
Even if you don't upgrade the screen, it's still more expensive. Really, they've somehow gone value for money on this thing.
Yeah, now what's interesting about this one is that this is the first time we've seen an Apple computer that doesn't have user switchable RAM. This one has soldered RAM to the circuit board, which means you choose 8 or 16, and that is what you get for the rest of its life.
Actually, what should be noted is when you buy the base model, the 2229 model, the only thing you can change is the RAM. You cannot change your hard drive. You cannot change your processor unless you buy the 1-up model, which I thought was interesting.
Then you can change. So there comes in a 2.3, a 2.5, and a 2.7.
But you need to start at 2800 to be able to upgrade that processor.
I can't remember. I think somewhere around there.
Yeah, because I think it's something like that, or 2600.
Yeah. Now, although the RAM is not user switchable, unlike previous Apple computers, it's not overly expensive to go from 8 to 16. I mean, it's $200, but that's when you compare it to what it would cost to buy the chips. It's not drastically more like it typically is with Apple.
Well, see, here's my thing. In terms of chip per chip, yes, it's still ridiculous because you can buy that much RAM for very cheap, like $80. But it's soldered onto your board. So to have that and gain, the efficiency and that kind of thing, it becomes not as ridiculous.
Yeah.
When you're paying for literally that stick you could go buy for $30 and you're paying $100, that doesn't make sense. But here they are doing something with it, right? So it's a justifiable cost. Now, the only thing I want to talk about on this model, probably you want Apple Care on that.
Yes.
Because they talked a lot about how it was built and how they made the changes because it is a drastically different way to make a laptop. The display is fused into the top. So if you need a new monitor, the whole top has to be replaced. You can't take the panel out like in, I don't know, every other monitor ever.
Yeah, and the hard drive is a proprietary size.
Yes.
And we've already talked about the RAM being
Yeah.
soldered on the board.
It's just like the MacBook Pros or MacBook Airs. It's those stick drives made by Samsung. You can kind of almost get third-party ones now because people have been kind of backwards engineering them. But I don't know that you're going to be able to get easily access inside at all of your new MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
As well, it's mostly battery.
It's true.
And you were saying it's got a kind of a weird battery setup.
Yeah, so what happens is there's 6 batteries, and there's sets of 2 that are different sizes. So the first ones are this big, and then the next ones are this big, and then the last ones are this big to work around the components inside. So
Yeah.
they're using what's called asymmetrical battery setup. Now, what we also really think is cool is they're using what's called asymmetrical fan blades.
Which they touted very heavily at the...
Yeah, I'm sure you're used to the idea of your computer fan making a consistent humming sound that's at a certain frequency, and that is because all the fan blades are exactly the same and laid out exactly the same. They create a single pitch. Well, what Apple did to counter that, to make the computer quieter or less noticeable, is basically to stagger the fan blades so that they are not all the same, so that it generates a range of tones and therefore is less noticeable, which I think is actually pretty cool.
I thought it was stupid,
All right.
personally. I can't hear my MacBook Pro when it's on.
No, I can hear mine.
Yours is a lot older than mine.
It's true.
No, I can't hear it when it's on. I think that's, it's just Apple being Apple. Yes, it's a nice feature to have, but they played it up like it was the coolest thing since sliced bread, and I thought that was really bad form. To be like, hey, we have this amazing new product. Let's talk about our fans for 3 minutes. I'm like, no, talk about that display for Christ's sake. But it does look a pretty good product. I mean, I think it kind of marginalizes the 15-inch regular MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
Because really, that starts at $1,800, and at that point, spend the extra $400 and get the nicer screen, and the smaller size.
Well, I think it's going to be based on people who maybe want a larger hard drive because you can still get a bigger size from a standard hard drive in the laptops.
Yes, because it does ship with like a 500 gig standard.
Yeah, and people who still want to have a CD-ROM drive without having to buy a USB-based CD-ROM
Yeah, which is
drive.
like $100 if you buy it from Apple.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's still a market for the people who don't necessarily care about the pro features of the Retina MacBook. But you're right, it is a small gap. Now, just while we're talking about the Retina display, it will be shipping with a new updated version of Lion that supports the resolution, and Apple has gone and updated almost all of their apps to support this resolution. The one that I think is really cool is they've updated Final Cut Pro 10 to support this resolution. So when you're watching the windowed box, you're actually seeing pixel for pixel 1080p, which I think is really awesome.
I agree.
And you still have about 60% of your screen left to do the rest of your work.
And I think this is going to be a fantastic device for photo editors, video editors who want to do stuff on the go. Because I mean, even the base model one is more than powerful enough to do basic 1080p video editing. It might take a little bit longer to render out. Well, but you're going to probably do that at home anyways.
Yeah,
so.
They were touting 8 simultaneous ProRes feeds and 4 uncompressed feeds.
Now that's
which
probably on the ripped out version.
Well, it's the same graphics card on both of them.
Yes, but it's a significantly better i7.
Yes.
But, I mean, regardless, that 2.3 i7 is not shabby.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're probably still going to be able to get very close to similar performance. So, it looks like an excellent device for pros, or even for people who just kind of want the air, but they want performance.
Yeah.
And really, if you're buying a Mac laptop, you should be ready to spend tons of money. $2,000 is a perfectly reasonable amount to spend on an Apple laptop. It's
par for the course.
That's just the way it is. So I think this is a good device. Next up, we're talking about Mountain Lion very briefly because we have talked about it before. They talked about it like it was brand new, but they had already announced everything they announced, more or less.
Well, they did tell us about some features that hadn't really hit.
A few, yeah.
Hadn't really hit the public yet. First one, which I think is pretty cool, is dictation everywhere.
Yes.
Which I think is pretty neat. Anywhere where you could type something, you can now double tap a button to bring up dictation and talk. So you want to talk out a Facebook status, you can do it. You want to talk out a Word document, you can do it. I think that's pretty cool because their dictation is fairly good. I mean, I've used it on my iPad. It does a fairly good job of being responsive. And it is pretty sweet to be like, I want to write a letter. I would just be better if I could write it and then go in and make my changes.
And this is a really good thing to have baked into an OS because Windows has nothing similar.
Yeah.
And normally you'd have to go buy a piece of $100 software or whatever. And this is a really good thing to just have in the OS.
Yeah.
As opposed to having it as a feature. The coolest thing I liked was PowerNap.
Yes.
Now, a lot of other devices do this already, but we've never really seen a computer that does it. When your computer is asleep, it will still fetch your email and update your calendar and things like that. Basically, everything iCloud does, it'll do in the background while your computer's asleep. without using all that much power.
Yeah.
So it keeps enough kind of alive and in cache to be able to do, quick Wi-Fi bursts and then shut off. And I think,
As opposed to the idea of waking your laptop up and all of a sudden, all this thing's going on. It's just kind of doing that, and when you wake it up, it's all already there for you to use.
Yeah,
As
so
opposed to having to then refresh your mail and all that.
I think that's a really cool feature to have, and I don't see why it's not in OSs considering how connected we are these days.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
And the thing we're most happy for is AirPlay
AirPlay.
of the screen, which is pretty good, and
Yep.
it supports sound through it as well. So they showed a demo. They talked about new features to Game Center, which are kind of cool, where you can cross-platform game against people on iPads and iPhones. But what was neat is that they were showing a demo where they were playing on the laptop, airplaying it to the TV over the network, playing against someone on an iPad. And it was really kind of a cohesive universe at that point. I mean, there's something to be said about the gaming available, but it is pretty cool that they've sort of built that ecosystem.
I think, to play devil's advocate on that, they really need to have people actually use Game Center APIs. Because really, the people who most of the popular games are using, maybe the achievements
Yeah.
and not much else in Game Center. And to be honest, Game Center is pretty rich feature-wise. The problem why it sucks is nobody uses it. They touted numbers, and if you looked at the number of Game Center users compared to the number of iOS devices,
Yes.
tiny amount of people. And I mean, I'm a Game Center user, but I only logged in once so I could compare towers with my brother on Tiny Tower.
Yeah.
And that's literally the only feature I've ever
It's
used.
the only time I ever used it. Too.
Yeah, so I really think Game Center has potential, but developers need to want to use it.
Yeah.
And
so hopefully, because of this now integration
Could be.
into
Could be.
Lion or Mountain Lion, I think we might see a bit more push for Game Center
Yeah.
to be more involved.
So there's lots of other, 200 features is their new thing for everything, I guess.
There's always 200 features.
Yeah, so there's lots of other stuff.
I think if
We've-
they hit 200 features, go, okay, we can stop.
Yeah,
and we'll
let's
save
let's
the
roll
rest
that
for
out.
another
Yeah.
one,
So we'll do an in-depth review when it comes out, which is coming out next month. I didn't give a date, but probably about mid-month.
For $20.
Yeah, $19.99. Again, coming over the App Store only, and that covers all your Macs. So if you have 8 Macs, $20, 8 Macs, which is cool. Now we're going to talk a little bit about iOS 6, which we had not heard anything about.
It's true.
I think I want to hit it off the head. Big thing iOS 6, Maps is different.
Yeah, so they've abandoned Google Maps and they've now moved to their own mapping system, which is partnered with TomTom. Now, this is good and bad. The good news is that you now get turn-by-turn navigation for free on the device, and TomTom's fairly good at turn-by-turn navigation.
Well, and it's not a TomTom, like they still have the TomTom app, which is going to be better than what you get.
Yes.
They're just kind of licensing TomTom's data, so I don't know how that's going to be comparable. But important to note for the turn-by-turn, which we were both excited about, except
Don't get it on an iPhone 4.
no, you need a 4S
Yeah,
or an iPad next gen.
which doesn't make any sense.
No.
But the big problem with the new mapping system is that Google is really, really good at maps. They've been doing it for a long time. They've got insane coverage. They've got all the back streets down. They've got all the photos taken. They've got all your one-ways, two-ways streets labeled. And Apple really has none of that.
Yeah.
So the thing that we thought was a little ironic about this was it's a new feature that is arguably worse than what you had before. And you're kind of going, no, just hang with us for a year or two while we work to make it better. In the meantime, you can no longer have access to that service that worked perfectly fine in the first place.
So like we had discussed before the show is the Apple Maps look very clean, which at first you're like, I like that.
Yeah.
Because maps are sometimes can be convoluted, right? The problem with that is they're too clean. There's not enough information. When you zoom, you get more, but I don't want to be looking at 2 city blocks when I'm trying to plan my route across, Toronto
Absolutely.
or a metropolitan area, right? So you need more information than what they're giving you at any given level.
And the big thing that threw up a red flag for me was that with Google Maps, it supported transit maps. So trains, buses, that kind of stuff. And Apple's statement was that they felt that the third-party apps did a better job of that, so they were going to leave it up to the third-party apps for that, which has me worried because I like the idea of mapping a route and going, well, how long would it take to walk? How long would it take to bus? How long would it take to car? Because maybe if I'm just going to the bar, I'd rather not take my car.
Yeah, and I've done that before where I've gone, how long will it take me to bus? How long will it take me to drive? And picked that way.
Yeah.
Quite a few times because I have a bus pass and a car.
But now we'll have to fire up some other app for the
And let me
city
tell
that
you,
we're
the
in.
OC Transpo app's not very good.
No.
So that's an interesting choice. The other thing is they don't have Street View, obviously, because
Yes.
Google has spent so much time and effort and money getting that. They do have what flyover.
Flyover is what they're calling it, which is really more of a show-off feature than anything else. It's
not
got this-
extremely useful.
It's got this really cool 3D rendering that you can kind of spin around buildings and stuff like that. But the problem is that, one, you don't get it unless you have an iPhone 4S or above. And 2, only certain cities have it, which is a much smaller number because they've only been doing this for like a year.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think I'd ever use it.
Yeah. It's
No.
kind of one of those things you show off to your friend if you look how
Yeah.
cool this looks, and then you'll never use it again.
Yeah,
Kind
it's
of like Siri.
yeah, which has a pile of updates as well.
Yeah, if you're a big sports fan, Siri does a lot more for you now.
Now, see, I saw that and I didn't care as much, but I know there's tons of big sports people.
Yeah.
And these are partnerships they've done directly with leagues.
It's true.
Which is the best way. They're not going through Yahoo Sports or some sports network. It's this data is coming from the NBA and the what they have. They had baseball, they had basketball, football.
Yeah.
I think so.
No hockey yet, but maybe coming.
that'll come. The point is the sports stuff is very intuitive. You can call up, when's this team playing next? What was the score of this game? And it seemed very easy to use. And you could go a lot further. As what's so and so's batting average? Does so and so weigh more than so and so? Stuff like that. So that looked like a pretty good feature that I could see a lot of people using if they like Siri.
Yeah, and important for us Canadians, it's now supported both English and French.
Yeah.
It was quite a bit of laughter in the audience when it says we're now supporting Canada, English, and French because I guess and then he paused and said A.
Yeah, why are we always the butt of jokes? It takes us forever to get anything, and then when we finally get it, they're like, we've given it to you.
Because we needed to make sure that when you said A in a boot, that our Siri knew what it was doing. Apparently we all do, and none of us catch it.
But they also rolled out to a pile of other countries. Japan, which happened apparently before this event. So us, 5 different languages in China.
Yeah,
it was what? Cantonese, Mandarin, mainland.
Yes.
And then Cantonese in Taiwan.
Yeah.
Which is still in China. So there's that. And a pile of Spain, Mexico, Spanish for America,
yeah,
I think is one thing. So it looks like a broader rollout and local search for all of them as well.
Yeah,
which if they hadn't had would have been stupid.
Now, a feature that I want to talk about that I really like is the Do Not Disturb feature they've added in. Because currently my phone will not turn off because I have a broken power button, so I plug it in every night and don't turn it off. And although apparently that's the norm, most people don't turn their phones off, I guess. I always turn my phone off.
Never do.
I'm a habitual phone turner offer. But the problem for me was that I don't like to be disturbed when I'm sleeping. But I also don't necessarily like the idea that no one can get a hold of me if they need to. So this Do Not Disturb feature is really cool because what it does is it allows you to set a list of contacts that can break the rules of Do Not Disturb. So you put your parents and your girlfriend or whatever on this list, and if they call, it will ring through. Or you can also flick a switch where it says if the same person calls back twice in a row, it'll ring through. So if they're trying to get a hold of you, they call once and get your answer machine and they don't call you back, well, they probably didn't care. But if they call you a second time,
could be an emergency.
It could be important.
Or something, yeah.
And then you can also set times that it works, but it can also it'll at the same time ignore all your Twitter and Facebook and email notifications.
I think that's the attractive thing for me is I don't have to get when I'm in bed I don't hear the bloop bloop when I get my 80 emails overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really like this feature, and I think they've. What I really like about it is they've given you a lot of flexibility with it, which if it was just like, oh, well, you can flick it on and it's going to still grab your data but not make sounds for it or something, it would be kind of useless. But because they've allowed you to set groups and have these rules and stuff, I think it's a really cool feature.
A couple other things I want to kind of get through a little bit. FaceTime over 3G, 4G. Which is something I guess somebody wants if they use FaceTime.
Yeah, except you can't have it if you're a 3GS or a 4.
Yes, that's right, which is a bummer. Facebook integration, really big Facebook integration, to the point where Facebook events can show up on your calendar.
Yep, birthdays can show up on your calendar.
Yeah, you can sync
your contacts. Yep.
As well as, like Twitter had before, you can pull up and share to Facebook.
Yeah.
From photos and videos and things like that. So that looks good if you're a Facebook user. Other big things was
Safari tab syncing.
Yes, which is a new feature in the new Safari on Mountain Lion as well.
What's cool about this is instead of just firing up Safari and then all of a sudden all these tabs
which
appear,
is how Google does it.
Yeah, what you do is you click a little cloud button and then choose the device that you want to pull the tabs from, and then it loads it, which I think is really cool.
I like that. I think the implementation of that looks excellent. Offline reading list, which is not something we had on iOS before. I think the big thing they were touting was Siri because that's coming to iPad with iOS 6.
And the last thing I want to talk about is Passbook because this is kind of showing some future for Apple. This is their card management system. So if you got a Starbucks card, you've got movie tickets, that kind of stuff. This app is designed to manage all of those devices, and it's location aware. So you show up at the movie theater, it's going to go, oh, here's that ticket that you ordered, so you can just scan your phone. And this is really showing that NFC is probably coming. This is probably going to handle that kind of stuff. I think it's a really slick app, and I would love to be able to carry less cards in my wallet, assuming it would support a lot of the things that I use.
See, that's my problem is in 2 years,
Yeah.
maybe this could be awesome.
Yes.
Right now, especially because we're in Canada, it's going to be entirely useless for us.
Yeah.
Because the things they showed off, the only brand I recognized that I know would work up here was Starbucks.
But they did make the APIs available right
Yes,
away,
which
so
could be
developers
good.
can jump on it.
Because
and
I
we
would
might
love
see
to
stuff
have
soon.
my Air Miles, my Best Buy, my Aeroplan, all that crap out of my wallet and into my phone.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily want my payment cards in there at any time, but it would be cool to have a Cineplex integration and things like that.
Absolutely.
So hopefully we'll see that come once Canada gets. Who knows? We'll have to see who's going to jump on that.
Yeah. So this will be coming in October, probably around the same time they announced the iPhone 5.
I would bet.
Yeah.
I would bet.
So moving on to our last bit of non-Apple related news. Scott's excited because the Vizio computers are now available.
Yeah, so we talked to CS about this ridiculous Vizio's TV maker who decided to make computers.
Yeah.
We like them aesthetically. Very Mac-ish, but kind of a little more shine to them, a little less. Well, then maybe not less boring looking, but very similar. What I really like about them, they're coming out for sale this month. The prices have been released and specs-ish have been released. Amazing prices for what you're getting. If you
Absolutely.
want to compare it to, Macs, which I think a lot of people are going to do because of the styling.
Yeah, so we're starting at 900, right?
Yeah, so the all-in-ones, there's a 24 and a 27. The 24 starts at $900.
Yeah.
27 is $1,100.
Yeah.
So for a 27-inch monitor, those are usually $400 or $500.
It's true.
So you're doing pretty well there. They're all coming with the latest Ivy Bridge processors, i5s, i7s. There's going to be an option there.
USB 3, all that fun
Yeah,
stuff.
USB 3. I don't think there's going to be Thunderbolt. Probably not. But with I think the picture has 4 USB 3 ports on it, so you probably don't need it. It's going to ship with the same graphics that are in the MacBook Pros.
Yeah.
That the new Kepler series of NVIDIA graphics. So those are really good. The only disappointment here is the 27-inch is a 1080p display.
Yeah, which is a little bit lacking when you compare it to other 27 inches,
Yeah.
which, like we talked about earlier, are getting around 2,500.
But 1080p is perfectly serviceable on a 24-inch display, and at $900, even with a few upgrades to 1,000, that's an excellent price for an all-in-one.
Absolutely. And we kind of have high hopes that because this is all Intel hardware, that maybe these will become a good option for a sort of Hackintosh iMac.
And the first reviews have kind of said the displays are gorgeous,
Yeah.
Which they should be because Vizio is a TV maker.
It's true.
And you do have the option to have an HDMI pass-through, so you can play your Xbox or whatever on your monitor while you're not using the computer. And in fact, you don't even need the computer to be on to do that,
Yeah.
which is a feature you can't do on the few iMacs that have that pass-through. They've also announced a few laptops. The only one I'm really excited about are the thin design laptops, which are to kind of compete with the Ultrabooks, but they're not calling them Ultrabooks. But basically, standard spec for Ultrabooks, 14-inch, 15.6-inch. Only disappointing thing is the only graphics they have are the Intel HD 4000 onboard graphics. There is no dedicated graphic in that 15-inch laptop, which I think is a letdown.
Yeah.
But 0.66 inches thick.
Yeah.
So, they're kind of Ultrabooks. So if you're looking for something Mac-ish, but you're not a Mac guy, you're going to run Windows on it anyway, please check out the Vizio line. They look really good. I've heard the early reviews are the displays are gorgeous, and they're really well built. So for that price point and the design, I think they're definitely worth checking out. Best looking PCs I've seen in years.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of Tech Insight. It's been a long one because, well, that's Apple News.
If you could either watch this or go watch the whole keynote for 2.5 hours.
It's a true story.
It's kind of alive.
No, it's still dead.
Oh.
Hey everyone, welcome to Science This Week. We're going to start it off with something less sciencey, more engineering, but also
Well, applied sciences.
applied sciences. From the realm of action movies.
Yeah, so any of you out there who've ever wanted to be like, hey, I want to be Spider-Man.
I want to
Or-
be Tom Cruise from Mission Impossible.
Or that's actually
Yes.
more apt in this case. Now you can. Because Utah State University won $100,000 from I believe it's a U.S. Navy funded sort of competition.
Yep.
All they had to do is figure out how to get soldiers up a really, really big wall and the most efficient way possible, or at least the quickest way or easiest way.
Yeah.
So there's always grappling hooks. There's a really neat gun that shoots the hook out and up and over the wall. Generally, it can clear a building though, for most cases.
Awesome.
So it's not all that useful. It's actually meant to board ships. It's kind of neat. But Basically, University of Utah came up with a self-contained vacuum glove unit.
Yeah,
thingy,
basically you strap a backpack on yourself.
which is
you
2
got
vacuums.
some pads
Yeah.
on your arms.
Some sort of I'm not actually sure how the pads are created. I don't know how they work, but yeah, you basically put 2 pads on your hands that look like big, squares.
Yep, and basically just sucking you onto the wall
Yep.
and releasing and.
And then there's little sort of hooks on your feet, so you
Yeah.
put on your shoes so you can balance yourself and keep contact.
Obviously, as the article pointed out, the noise.
Yeah.
The noise would be a problem here.
As they put it, it is louder than the shrieking banshees of hell.
So a stealthy entrance, this is not.
Yeah, so if there's a lot of, gunfire and bombs going off around you, yeah. Sure, hell, give her a
You want to
go.
break into a factory? You totally can.
Yeah, if you want, if you're crawling through air ducts, maybe, as long as those air ducts are on.
You'll hear the ka-gunk, ka-gunk.
Well, no, not in this case. There's no actual clunk. The only clunking noise is his shoes hitting the building, so you might be able to get away with it there. But otherwise, good going. But with that $100,000,
Yep.
they could probably make those a little more quiet.
Awesome.
Because, all they basically did was took 2 shot backs
Yeah.
and attached them.
Modified those a little and
Yeah.
you're good to go.
And then up the wall he went, which apparently happened very quickly. It was something along the lines of almost 2 minutes.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and he was able to get up and over the wall. Really
Yep.
good. But moving along to something else still military-based. This would be the trend.
Yes.
So, once again, I'm sure you're tired of it, because I'm kind of getting tired of it, but now they seem to have something. A tired subject of powering prosthetics or powering devices within the body using blood glucose. Except now we're saying goodbye to blood glucose. We're going into your spinal fluid.
Yeah.
So basically, for anyone who doesn't know, cerebral spinal fluid is held in 2 areas predominantly. There's some in your brain. Certain areas of your brain have it, as well as, your spine. There's actually a channel in it that has it.
Oh.
This is constantly being circulated through our bodies, and at the same time, it is also packed with glucose. It's basically, it's our backbone, and it is the center for all of our electrical workings, as it is. So it's actually really, really cool. They've come up with an idea. They published a paper. There's no prototype, and there's no animal trial yet.
Surprise.
But they have an idea of how they can actually harness quite a bit of energy out of it. About 100 microwatts is the goal, as most devices can be powered off of that. That would be put within a body. However, unlike the other groups out there, this specific one coming out of MIT, they're not actually taking all of the electrons off the glucose molecule like everyone else is trying to do.
Okay.
They're only trying to harvest 2. So that's kind of interesting. They're using a less efficient sort of method, but one that will definitely work, is what they're saying. So in the next couple of years, we're going to see an animal trial, and then they're going to be looking for human test subjects.
Yeah.
I thought I should mention it because,
Implant in your spine. Awesome.
well, you got to get there eventually.
It's true. There are less scary things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there could be worse things like be jamming in you. Mind you, though, I still don't want them in my spine.
It's like that's in the top 5 worst. It's definitely not number 1, but top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's got you all creeped out, this might get your hopes up. NASA has opened up the Launch Control Center for public tours as a celebration of the Kennedy Space Center's 50th anniversary.
Which I'm sure I hate to be really, really bit of a downer on this
Yeah.
one. It'd probably be kind of boring to just be led through in a line. But the fact that you can sit there and go, I was there, and if they let you fool around with crap, that'd be even better.
Well,
But they'll
there's-
never let you do that.
I believe there is a museum in the Kennedy Space Center or near it where they have recreations of
Oh, that'd be
all the
cool.
cool stuff that you can flip switches and press buttons and try not to break anything.
But-
This is definitely a lead you in a line type tour.
Oh, okay.
There's not too much detail in this article, but adults are $25 and kids $19.
That's pretty reasonable.
It's not too bad.
Considering, if you go to, Cape
Disneyland.
Canaveral or even
Yeah.
Disneyland, you're still spending at least $50 a person to get into the premises.
Yeah.
And then there's
this
another
is
on top.
really cool. I'm not sure if this is a limited time thing or it's going to be running from now on, but there are a limited amount of tours per day. If you're interested, check out the website. I'm totally interested, but the Kennedy Space Center is kind of far away.
Yeah, it's just a little bit. But I would
a
definitely
little
be
bit.
interested in going to do that.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
It's really cool.
But that kind of wraps it up for science this week.
Yep.
It's once again a short week. We'll try and get some more.
Hey everybody, welcome Behind the Lens for this week. We're starting off with some new stuff from Canon.
Well, new.
Well, repackaged with one or two extra features. We're talking the T4i, which is their new top of the line in the entry-level DSLR market, where Canon performs fairly well.
It's true. And much like the T3i, they've added a couple of extra things and convinced you should buy a new camera. And god damn it, Canon, stop fucking doing this.
Very much like the T3.
So it has the same sensor that the T3i had, although it's the one out of the 60D, because it has 9 cross-type autofocus points on it, which the 60D had. But the 60D was really the same sensor that was in the T3i. It's got the same swivel screen that the T3i had, except now it's touchscreen.
That's right.
And it can now autofocus during video, which none of the Canons have really done up until this point. They've added stereo microphones for recording video, and they've bumped up the frames per second to 5 from 3.8. That's really about where the list ends. I think it's compatible with some of the new accessories that were announced with the wireless adapter or whatever.
Sure.
Who knows? It's a stupid camera, and I'm tired of Canon changing one or two things. Be like, buy this new camera.
See, my biggest problem is if they had done this and then they'd stop making the T3i
yeah.
or something.
Well, they will. They will at some point.
But my problem here is they've got the T2i, which is still for sale.
Yes.
The T3i. Which
Well, there's
is
also the
still for sale.
T3, which is their
That's
entry
right.
level.
That's
one.
right. And there's a T4i now.
Yes.
And which is getting dangerously close to the 60D.
Well, in some respects, it's actually better than the 60D because the 60D doesn't have a touchscreen. And other than that, it's the same sensor with the same autofocus points and all that kind of fun stuff. So unless you needed the bigger bulk, like you preferred the actual physical sizing of the 60D, they're very similar cameras.
You're just crowding the lineup a little bit.
Well, the problem, and Canon will never stop until consumers do something about it, is Canon gives you 2 or 3 new features, and you go out and stupidly buy the new camera, as opposed to actually wanting change. And so because consumers keep buying these nothing changes cameras, Canon's just like, yeah, let's just keep making stupid amounts of money and doing no work whatsoever. They've completely abandoned the idea of being inventive or
in any
innovative.
way.
Yes,
in any
exactly.
Way, yeah.
With the one exception of what they've changed about the 2 new lenses they announced at the time of this, they finally decided to make a pancake lens. So they have announced a 40mm f2.8 pancake lens.
Which, if you're a Canon shooter, I'm sure you're super happy to finally see a pancake lens.
I guess. I mean, the thing is that pancake lenses make sense on the mirrorless cameras because it's all about keeping size down, but your body's already kind of big on a digital SLR. So, I mean, yes, it is smaller. No doubt about it. It's 40mm, which, is about a 55 equivalent on a crop sensor. But what's cool about this 40mm is that it's also full frame compatible.
Oh, that's nice.
But what they've done to this
That'll
guy...
look ridiculous on a full frame camera.
Yeah, well, What they've done to this guy is they've added their STM motors, which are silent stepping motors, which is supposed to greatly improve the autofocus functionality of the T4i during video so that it can do smooth focusing without being jerky, which a lot of the lenses are. I mean, if you autofocus on the cameras that do work is mostly useless because they do a lot of because that's how the focusing motor is designed.
Yeah.
So this one is supposed to prevent that from happening. As well, they've gone with a stepless aperture as well. So if you're dialing your aperture up or down while shooting, you're not going to get clicks of exposures. You'll just get a brightening and a darkening. So they announced this 40mm, and they also announced an 18 to 135, which they've had that focal length before, but it wasn't image stabilized. And so this is a new one that is image stabilized and also has the STM motor. So that's sort of your all-purpose video shooting lens, and the pancake's for when you want it to be a little bit brighter, although it's f2.8, so it's not overly bright. I'm a little disappointed in the aperture of the 40mm, because I have a Panasonic 20mm, which is a 40mm equivalent on full frame, and it's f1.7, and that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Even like f2 would have been better than f2.8, but I guess that's just what they decided to do. Maybe it would have been too big? I don't know. So those are the new lenses and the new camera from Canon. The lenses are kind of cool. The cameras just really make me angry. And I swear, if they do it again, like if the 70D, I'm not even going to talk about it because I'm just going to I'm going to go burn down Canon's offices and just be like, this is what you get for not being innovative. Death.
Now, on a little bit of a less ridiculous note, Nikon has released some new glass.
It's true. I guess not to be outdone by Canon, they said, oh, well, I guess we should ship those lenses that we've been talking about.
I think of notice, the 18-300 is one of the biggest zoom lenses they've ever had.
It's true. So they made the 18-200. They're one of the first to the scenes with a sort of super zoom lens, and then everyone has gone from there. And sort of the biggest on the scene up until now has been Tamron's 18-270, which is it's pretty, it's a good feat to achieve that. So Nikon's kind of stepped it up one more by going to 18-300. It is ED glass and VR image stabilization. It's a 3.5 to 5.6, which is what we kind of expect out of these lenses. You're never going to get a fixed aperture. The lens would be like this big, and then you wouldn't be able to take it anywhere. It's retailing for $9.99, which is only like think about $100 more than what the 18-200 goes for right now ish, depending on what you're getting it for. I think it's pretty cool. It is 23% larger than the 18-200, and the 18-200 was not a small lens. It wasn't a big lens, but it wasn't a small lens.
That's 23% is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this guy definitely has some extra length to it, and I bet that comes out when you zoom it as well. It's probably gonna get pretty long and poke people in the face. But it's kind of cool to see that they've stepped up their 18-200. This is a more complex lens that's using 19 elements in 14 groups, so there's more glass in it too than the 18-200. So arguably the 18 is probably going to be optically a little better performing than the 18-200. But what they've also announced is a sort of affordable full frame lens, which is not something we typically hear in the same sentence. When you buy a D700 or a D3 or a D800 or whatever, you have to kind of jump to these lenses that start at around $1,000, unless you're dealing with prime lenses. Any kind of zoom lenses that are full frame compatible tend to be expensive because they're full frame compatible, which is sort of ironic because all the cameras we've ever made up until we stopped making full frame were full frame. But they've decided to make a 24-85, which is your good mid-range lens. It's an f3.5 to 4.5, so it's not a constant aperture like the 24 to 120. But the price point is going to be $599, which is hundreds of dollars less than what's typically available unless you go and buy an older used lens. But this is going to have better focusing because it's a G lens and all that kind of stuff, and it's got the VR. So, I mean, in terms of going out and buying an older 28-2 or 28-80 lens or something, this is going to be a better performing lens all around, and it's a pretty reasonable price point. But what's interesting about this is it kind of continues to hint at that rumor that there is going to be a cheaper than the D800 full frame camera coming, because there is a sort of realistic expectation that if you've spent $3,000 on your D800, you're probably going to pony up more than $600 for a lens for it. So how many people realistically with a full frame camera, unless they bought it used or something, are going to buy this lens, which sort of very strongly suggests that there might be a $1,800, $2,000 full frame camera coming, where a $600 lens is an appropriate additional purchase. So it's kind of cool to see that. This is an announcement to the fact that Nikon has now made 70 million Nikkor lenses, and 30 million of them have the short silent wave motor, which is their fast quiet autofocusing.
So it's a lot of lenses.
Yeah, so this is sort of a lens. I guess they announced these lenses in sort of a celebration of it.
It's a celebratory lens.
Yeah, and although that neither one of them are all that spectacular. I mean, I guess 18-300s, I guess, is a feat for sure. But
and continuing on, the lens extravaganza, the German glass we talked about in the opening.
Yes, which Scott refuses to pronounce. It's Schneider Kreuznach. That's how I like to say it. Sean gets mad because he says I'm butchering it, but I read it like it's spelled.
He's probably right.
Yeah, he's probably right.
And which is why I'm not saying it.
They are German optics. They kind of put themselves in the same line as Carl Zeiss lenses and Leica lenses, as they're very expensive. So they've announced lenses, or at least a lens for Micro Four Thirds, or at least mirrorless anyways, but Micro Four Thirds off the bat, which is a 14mm f2. I like that they've added a lens. I'm tired of the third-party companies coming in and going, you've all made a lens, we're going to make a new version of that lens that already exists. Because it's like, if you're going to make lenses for this market, make something that hasn't been made, and then people will buy it. Because, Tamron was like, we're going to join NEX, and we'll make an 18-200, like Sony's 18-200. It's like, well, if Sony already has an 18-200... Why would we...
Now you're competing with Sony, who's selling the camera.
Yeah, whereas if you made a focal length that people wanted that Sony wasn't making, guess what? They're going to buy your lens. Yeah. But they're not really targeting the standard market with this lens, because their typical lenses retail for about $2,500 because they are that top tier glass, and this is probably going to come in somewhere around $1,500 to $1,800, which is a lot of money for a prime lens. considering that the 12mm f2, which is 2 millimeters wider and the same brightness from Olympus, is $900. And arguably, a lot of people thought that was already too pricey for that lens. I have one; it's a great lens. I'm sure this is going to be better. I don't know that it's twice as much better. What's interesting about this is these are the first guys from sort of the pro market to add autofocus. So this lens will autofocus, which everyone sort of expected was going to be manual focus because the Carl Zeiss lenses and all that kind of stuff are all typically manual focus. And they do say that they plan on bringing out another 2 lenses early next year as well.
For Micro Four Thirds.
For Micro Four Thirds and mirrorless. So I mean, I love that there's more people doing it. I think it's a gorgeous looking lens. It's really great. I love the text on it and all that kind of stuff. Looks very cinema. Kind of pricey.
Yeah, well, especially for your Micro Four Thirds market, because like an expensive Micro Four Thirds camera is like the OMD, which is like $1,000,
Or the GH2, which is also like
800
$800.
bucks.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I guess if they're gonna make it for NEX, all the people who own the NEX 7 will just buy it because they're already spending $1,200 on their 24 mil f2 point.
At that point, why not?
Yeah, exactly. So that's camera news. Bunch of lenses from a couple different manufacturers. And that brings us to the end of the show this week. As per usual, if you want to get a hold of us on the interwebs, you can send us an email at contact@almostfridayshow.com.
Or if you can fit it to 144 characters, you can send us a tweet at @almost_Friday.
And, if you're turbo boosting your way onto Facebook, you can type in the Almost Friday Show in that search box, add us to your feed. You'll get our new videos in your news feed to watch.
And then a new iOS, we can be integrated into your iOS device.
Yeah, kind of, maybe.
I don't know how that works.
We'll figure out a way to code it so every time a new episode is
You'll get
available, it just monopolizes your screen until you watch it.
That's a good. Yeah, we should get on that.
Yeah, we might piss people off.
That's okay.
Well, we'll do it.